welcome to another episode of the Laid Back Life podcast. We're talking about how to love entrepreneurship and your life and improve daily. Joining me today, a fellow Floridian who's rocking a Hawaiian shirt. Super honored. Brett, thank you so much for being with us today. Brett runs a firm in Florida as well as Get Staffed Up, probably the premier, certainly one of the premier staffing companies for law firms across the country from a nearshore talent standpoint. And Brett and I have talked, for years about this concept of if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. Brett wrote a book called 24 Months to Freedom. The first hire in the book is having this personal assistant, having this executive assistant. And so I finally cajoled him enough to get him to come on. It took, one message, but still.
Well, what's up, Jordan? Oh, and the No Man. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you even thinking I'm interesting enough to be on the podcast. So, and listen, I assume I can drink. We're laid back today, right? I can drink.
We're laid back, man.
All right, let's do it. So
you've got your jug, I've got mine, and we're having fun.
That's right. Listen, man, I know that you've done 75 hard. I did it for the second. I've tried 3 times. The first time I did it, second time I got the flu, believe it or not, like a weekend. So I did it starting January 7th. I'm down 18 pounds this year, man. I'm feeling great.
Well, I will. So I've done it 3 times as well.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a shout out. You sent me the message that was like in the most nice and supportive way possible. Figure out how to not screw it up on day 76. And I have had to, the reason I did it for the 3rd time was because I didn't follow your advice the first 2 times.
Yeah.
So
me too.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think that's for me, having the freedom to do 75 hard with kids and businesses is like, I'll go for a walk in the afternoon or late in the morning or like my work doesn't control me so much that I have to put my health aside.
Yeah.
And like, I hate that I have to talk about this now, but at 43, like, the reality is you really have to start focusing on your health now as you're approaching the mid 40s and later, because those memes where it's like, I'm at the age where I see high school pictures of my high school classmates and some of them look 30 and some of them look 60. It's like, I don't want to be the guy that lets my professional life get in the way of feeling how I want and being healthy. I mean, we got kids, I really want to not just be there for them, but be able to still run and play with my kids and health things just catch up. So for me, health is wealth. And that's kind of where like everything comes back to. If you have the freedom, the time, the money to sort of live the way you want, that really is a lifestyle that not enough people talk about, right? They talk about kids and time and fun and that, but where are you carving out time to be healthy?
Yeah, well, and so I hate the concept of multitasking. I don't get how this is still a thing that anybody talks about, but I like multi-impact. How can you do one thing and get multiple impacts? And so, we're talking about personal assistant, you're talking about health. Literally every Wednesday morning, we're recording this on Wednesday. So earlier this morning at 8 o'clock, I go for a walk. My assistant goes for a walk. We're in separate places with a phone meeting, and I just answer whatever questions are sitting on her brain. So, hey, we're waiting on this field trip. We're waiting on this stuff. Like, what question about this? I've got how do I prioritize these 2 events at the same time while both of us are getting steps? It is phenomenal.
I hadn't heard someone do that where their assistant's also taking a walk. I love that. That's amazing. That's really cool to hear. I mostly walked this time during my 75 hard. So a lot of times it was 2 like 45-minute walks per day. And by the way, I had the almost exact same results as when I was training for my triathlon, and I can't do that anymore because my knee. So I had almost the same results, by the way, which is crazy. But those walks, man, I'm just same thing on my phone, answering, calling. I get like catching up with people. I just get so much done on those walks.
Yeah, I love it. So, but like, how did you get to this point? Like, I can't imagine on day 1 of Trembly Law, you were being able to focus on these things. And obviously, day 1 of Get Staffed Up was different.
Yeah. When I look at pictures of me in like day 1, year 1, year 2, year 2.5 of my law firm, I can see in photos the stress on my face. Unfortunately, I was not the guy who could just like dissociate business and life and like fully be present and happy at like my daughter's first birthday party and all that, right? I carried that stress because actually my daughter's kind of first birthday party was back home where I'm from in New Mexico, and my firm shut down for a week when I went there. So I'm basically just having these knots in my stomach. Like I did it and I'm gonna get through it, but these knots were like, I could have leads coming in that aren't being taken care of. I'm losing that business. I'm not getting any work done. Like if you have a restaurant and you just close the doors and say, we'll be back in a week, that's essentially what I did. And yeah, so day one, year one, it was 2.5 years before I hired someone at the law firm. And I really like those. You don't have to be as stressed as I was, but I like, I don't come from family money. I didn't have like what like a nest egg to fall back on. I had a new marriage, new mortgage, new business, new child, all in the same year in 2012. And it was a lot, man. It was a lot. And I was just trying to just like do everything myself. So I was up till 2 a.m. working, up at 7 a.m., networking like crazy. And it took a toll on me. And I didn't realize it till years later.
And so it's interesting, you talk about this, what day one looked like, and to your credit, sort of in both directions, it was a lot harder to get the globalization of help, right? Like Zoom wasn't this common thing on day one that it is now. Like getting in touch with people remotely, having access to staffing companies, having people in, other parts of the country. So I think it's been easier to get help in
Yeah.
both directions.
It wasn't common knowledge. It was possible because you could use Skype back then, right? We were using Skype in law school, but like it wasn't something that people did. Like there was no one out there saying, "Hey, you can do this," right? Like big companies. Well, the very first marketing video I ever made for Get Staffed Up is one of those like cartoon explainer videos, and it was like using offshore talent is not just for the big boys anymore, because the big companies have been doing it forever smartly, but just it was like us, the small and medium-sized businesses who hadn't been doing it. So it was possible, but nobody was out there pounding the drum talking about it. And I think that also coincides a little bit with um the movements. I remember at a bar association meeting in probably like 2015 or 16, somebody coming and talking about like wellness and stuff. I mean, it kind of all, this is like a last 10, 15 years type thing. And I think before that, and still to a large extent, lawyers carry the badge of honor of being miserable, working hard, working long hours. And that sucks for that mentality.
Well, so last week we had Anna Juneja on, who was talking about building a great life with social media, like in essence, getting yourself out there. I'm curious from the standpoint of us here talking about this, like a personal assistant to support your great life, your first hire, did they help you on a wellness thing, or were they really taking all of this legal stuff on?
My very first hire was in 2014. It was the summer of 2014. It was a law student. I hired her for 30 hours a week, probably paid her like $400 or something. Like that's basically all I could muster up in my head anyway, looking back. And I told her, look, you're gonna do it, you're gonna answer the phone, you're gonna schedule things for her. She did all the admin stuff. So essentially she was like an executive assistant. And like so I doubled my revenue the next month. So I knew it worked from that standpoint, but I probably was less aware of how it also worked from a personal life standpoint. So when you're in the grind, one of the challenges when they say work on your business instead of in your business is that when you're in your business, you don't stop and take note of what you've done and what's worked and reflect on things. I heard a quote one time. I don't know if I 100% agree, but it's like we don't learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on our experience. I agree with it
Mhm.
for the most part. It's like
Yeah.
you just do things maybe you're learning, but you're just on the hamster wheel, just moving. There's not like learning. You gotta step off. What worked for me? What didn't? It's like a relationship, a business, whatever. What worked and what didn't work, and why, and then what can we get better? So, my hiring journey was, she went back to law school, of course, after the summer. So I hired another 30-hour a week girl that was finishing her paralegal certificate. And then that fall, I just went all in. There was like a change in me where I'm like, I did a business plan workshop. I mapped out my $1 million law firm, and it was just a hiring plan, Jordan. That's why my book is 24 Months of Freedom. It's a hiring plan. That's what my business plan was, quite literally. Here's, we're going to hire this person, and then here's how much, work they can do. And then so it's like intake, marketing person, paralegal, lawyer. And within 10 months, I had made all those hires, and we were above $1 million, revenue based law firm. I mean, look, and revenue is different than profit and all that, but at least tons of breathing room. And it was at that point where I felt like, okay, now I get to make some decisions, because like there's enough resources where I'm not worried every night about where my next paycheck's going to come from. Because early on in the law firm, I mean, I know I'm not the only one that had, that fear. I'm not just totally stressed out of my mind. I can breathe, I can live, and I got to still work hard, but I get to make decisions based on my values now, not based on necessities.
Well, okay, I want to touch deeper on this because you sort of had this as a throwaway, but I think it's a huge point. You were like, I hired this person and my revenue doubled the next month. I can't imagine the law school person doubled your revenue. I think probably they gave you the opportunity to do other things. Okay, so because I think we get so focused on cost, but I want to talk opportunity cost. Like that becomes the biggest thing. So kind
Yeah.
of walk me through like what were they doing to allow you to do other things to double that revenue?
Yeah. It's actually the point that one of the points I try to stress the most that people don't get, because we don't allow simple math to like insert our logic and stay there, because we're so wrapped up in the emotions of the money. The average lawyer that bills hourly collects about an hour to 1.2 hours per day. The reasons are, we're doing everything ourselves. We're wearing about 60 hats. We're networking. We're basically just trying to squeeze in some legal work. I mean, we're spending all day on our damn email, and I beat that drum a lot, And then we don't get our bills out, and then because we don't get them out, then we feel bad, and then they're large bills instead of small bills. So then we give discounts, and then we know what we don't ask. If whenever I'm in a room speaking to lawyers and I ask, how many of you have, if there's like 30 or more lawyers, how many of you have $20,000 in AR? Every hand, right? 50, 100. And like, if they're being honest with me, there's always somebody that has at least $250,000 that they've already done, that's just sitting there that they haven't asked for. And like, for that reason, solo lawyers collect like 1 to 1.2 hours of billable work per day. So the math is basically just math. If you can collect 2 hours to 2.2, you will double your revenue. And when somebody is giving you back 30 freaking hours a week, and all you need to do is bill one extra or collect one extra per day, it's frankly pretty easy.
So I will take this the largest we ever were as a basically solely criminal defense firm. We had $250,000 in unpaid, and it was not for lack of sending out the bills, but
Okay.
like in one year.
Okay.
And we were not $1 million firm. The 250 would have made us $1 million firm. That's a
So
huge chunk of
it's
change.
a huge chunk of your money.
Yeah.
25% would have been, yeah.
So that is
Um,
an I will take I will
yeah,
shine that light on myself. I have been
yeah.
there. It
Di-
sucks.
Yeah. So look, no, I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but if I could only hire 2 people at my law firm, it had to be, there was some sort of rule. It had to be me and 2 people, like an executive assistant and a billing assistant.
Yeah.
The billing assistant will change your life. It'll change your cash flow. It'll change your relationship with your clients. It'll put a buffer between you and them. Bills will get out consistently. They'll get out fairly. You won't lose time, because at the end of the week, you're like, oh my God, what did I do this week? And you try to recapture your time, which probably over 50% of lawyers do. I mean, like, we suck so bad at the business side of collecting. It's like, again, the pizza shop analogy. Everybody comes in and eats and you bill them at the end of the month. Who would do that?
Lawyers. People who got in it because we want to do a great job. We want to make the world a better place.
That's
And
what I did and you did, right? We did
yeah,
it.
but you have to, but it's like Simon Sinek, the infinite game, right? Like you need to stay in the game to be able to help people. Like if you're out of the game, you can't help.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So on that, like day one of you doing that first hire, what were some of the things that you had this law student do to help you?
Sure. Answer the phones, try to schedule consultations, schedule my meetings. This is 2014, by the way. So send faxes, right? Like receive faxes, believe it or not. Do errands, grab lunch. I was able even early on to delegate some of my email where I would be like, here, just let me actually like would print the emails and like just like here, do these 5 things, just read through them. So I was not that organized because I'm a high A or like I take action very quickly, which means I don't always have, and here I am with a staffing company where I'm trying to help people stay organized, but like, no, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So I don't always have these beautiful little, you know, job descriptions with exactly what you're going to do. You sort of like learn on the job and let's build it out as we go. It's kind of the way that I operate anyway. Some people need everything in writing and they need it to be nice and tidy before they move. Other people don't need anything in writing and they're like, sold, let's go, right? So I hope that's a good enough answer, but
Yeah.
imagine just like everything you're showing up to do, you're just like, here, you help me with this. I'm gonna just do more legal work. And that's what I did. I just actually started getting to my legal work in the day instead of waiting till like 12 p.m. on a Saturday.
So there's this great story. So I mean, I love David Allen getting things done, and I love it because I am like you. Like I need a system to keep me organized. Otherwise, I will be so far gone we won't be able to recreate it. So there's this story about Drew Carey calling up David Allen and being like, for the longest time, I thought, hey, who could you send me who would do what you do? And then I realized I'm rich. I can just hire you. So what would it cost for you to do this? And I just thought it was such a fascinating, and I'm hoping Drew Carey did it in like that very like all shucks guy next door. Like I could afford David
Right,
Allen not to be a jerk about it.
right.
But like there are so many lawyers where having this extra person allows them to build the system to help that person do the stuff to hire the next person
Yeah,
instead of like, oh my God, I can't imagine writing down SOPs while you're trying to not get malpractice complaints because you have too much work.
yeah. Look, if we compare ourselves just by living and breathing and being in the United States and not being homeless to, I don't know, like 80% of the rest of the world, we are very, very rich. And hiring somebody in person can be scary because you're like, oh my God, here's the way I believe most people think about this. It's like, I gotta hire someone, I gotta pay him about 50,000 and then it's gonna cost me, 65. How am I going to make 50 to 60,000 more dollars, right? How many more hours? Where my case going to come from? That's just the wrong way to look at it. It's just the wrong way to look. That's what I was doing. I was waiting until there was like a magical number in my bank. Like I wanted to build up my law firm bank accounts like $20,000. It didn't happen until I hired someone, and then it happened very quickly,
Yeah.
right? It's the opportunity cost of how I didn't know Dan says this. It's funny. I've gotten like 2 different texts that will send me a picture of his book. They're like, this guy's selling for you. Like, this is the book, whatever. It's like
Buy
I
back
should
your time.
yeah, buy back your time. I should have named my book Buy Back Your Time instead of 24 months of freedom, right? But if you think like I gotta pay this person for a month and it's gonna cost me about $5,000. Again, offshore, why it's so much easier because it's going to cost you 2,000. Let me figure out how I'm going to make 500 a week and just focus on the week. And you're like, oh, that's another hour of, like you said, that's another hour of billable time. And then it becomes easier on like, we get so hung up with not failing and the psychology behind not failing. at least I did, and I'm definitely projecting when I say these things, that we're terrified to just make moves and take even micro risks because we think like, oh my God, what if I fail? You know, like law students is this like, it was hard to get into law school and it was so competitive. And then it was this battle of like, if I hire someone and it doesn't work out, I'm a failure. Why would we ever feel that way? You know, and I really like helping people sort of break through the mental barriers around this topic and hiring, because once they do, it's off to the races.
Well, and if you hire somebody else for 20, 30, 40 hours a week and you can't find one more hour to bill or two more hours to bill, like I want to meet you. I want to help you. You know, like if you have 40 hours of somebody else's time, you have to be able to find another hour or two from
A
that
business
standpoint.
a business has too much to do not to. Like there's
Yeah.
when I say 60 hats, I have a chart that has like 7 departments, and what every department, if you don't have a CFO, you are a CFO, right? If you don't have a marketing director or assistant or coordinator, you're all those things. It's not just the assistant. That's just, you know, the one that's probably the most fun to say. And so there's lots for your business to do. And if you really don't have another hour to bill or legal work to think about a case or to help a client more, then you go spend the time networking to get the next case, you know? I want to mention that it's Wednesday at 10:27 a.m. and I'm sitting here in a Hawaiian shirt that I pulled out of my closet without like any thought of what I'm missing doing this, you know? And that is not lost on me, because you want to talk about lifestyle. The like going to networking events and trying to meet people when you really need cases, and you're like but like your mind's back in your office because what you're not getting done while you're there, that sucks. It just sucks. And it's hard, and it's stressful because you don't really want to be there.
And yes, and the people that don't like, I am a strong believer in a networking lunch being an hour and a half, or at least booked for that time frame. We may
Right.
not sit there the entire time, but every time I've had somebody be like, "Hey, I really need to keep the lunch to an hour. I've got to go somewhere else." It's just not the
Yeah.
same flow. You feel rushed, and then like if I feel rushed, I'm less likely to send them a case because we didn't have the really good connection. We had the, sort of two
That
ships in the night.
does that include travel time?
Oh, no. So like so I have a whole SOP in the time it takes. If it's 12 minutes or less, it's 15 minutes on my calendar. If it's above
Oh,
that, I'm trying to keep it under, 30 minutes of travel each way. But no, like 12 to 1:30 lunch, maybe we'll leave at 1:15, 1:20.
yeah.
But like, I don't want to be rushed. If I'm here to get business and build a relationship, I want
Yeah.
that to be the focus. I don't want to be thinking about having to get to court
Yeah,
at 1:30 and leaving early.
for
I don't
sure.
want to be thinking about all the emails that are piling up. Like to what you said, like showing up in that right mindset makes the networking meeting be more effective because you can
Yeah.
actually focus on the goal of that conversation.
Yeah. That's smart. I like the hour and a half idea. What used to happen to me is like I'd be scheduled up until 12 and then have lunch at 12. And I'm like, where's my travel time? Right. And so like the little thing you said, where if it's further than, if it's under 12 minutes, it's 15, you teach your assistant how to book in the travel time. So you don't even think about it anymore. It's
And
one of those little
I'm
lifestyle
sorry.
things. Go ahead.
Well, and Google Maps is amazing because you can actually check the travel time. Like I expect this to be Wednesday
Right.
at noon, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's usually an 8-minute drive. Instead of at rush hour, it might be 14 minutes. Like that might change the whole thing.
Yeah. Very cool. I would tell you, one thing that I don't do as well is my wife and I both we have 3 kids, and we get a ton of school emails and then a ton of WhatsApp messages about school. And my wife likes to not feel kind of her issue, right? Like she's sort of like delegating the kids stuff. So she likes to get the messages, which means things can fall through the cracks. So that is something that it's not only an executive assistant, because like my executive assistant, they have access to my email and they really control so many things for me. It's not just for work, it's for your life. It's just to make you not only have the networking time where you're relaxed, but family time, because you're not like, oh my God, what are all those things I didn't get done, when you're trying to spend time with your kid.
Totally. And so, I mean, same thing. Like we've got the same stuff, and we have I specifically have a family calendar that's shared with my wife. That's a different color from the work stuff. So
Yeah.
my assistant puts all the school stuff on there, and then we figure out a week or two in advance if we can make it. And it's one less thing to worry
Yep.
about.
Yeah. No, and it's awesome, right? I mean, come on. It's pretty damn awesome that you've been able to figure this out, and it just makes your life better. It makes you more relaxed and sort of enjoy it more.
Well, and as a business owner, like, so my kid's going to go to Sea Life in Orlando, the aquarium, on the end of April. I get to be, I'm trying to be the chaperone. His school has the most overwhelming parental support. I might not make it. If I do
Okay.
get to go, like most of the other kids there, their parents are lawyers and judges, whatever. So there's a networking component option to it. But my
Yeah.
executive assistant also has like a whole different Thursday booked for me if I don't end up being on the field
Oh,
trip. And
cool.
just like knowing that this is going to work out, whether it works out at the field trip or not, it's amazing to be able to not worry and focus on, like, as lawyers, we have enough to worry about. We have somebody going through the worst moment of their life who has hired us to make it better. I don't want to also be concerned about, like, am I going to get to lunch on time? Am I going to get back from court on time? Am I going to call this client back on time? Like,
Yeah.
just let it be controlled by somebody else so you can execute on it with the right frame of mind.
Yeah. It's like your clients deserve your focus on their case, not your half focus on their case while you're worried about how you're gonna, you know, figure out dinner, get your next case, whatever it is. I mean, we've done things before at the firm where before a trial we'll bring in like a masseuse and everybody at the firm gets a massage, like the team that's going to trial, right? And it's like, hey, like we're gonna give this our best effort and we're gonna be relaxed going in, not stressed, like, oh my God, I forgot to book a hotel room because I live in Palm Beach and the trial's in Miami. And like we try our best to really do what our clients deserve and pay us for.
I love that. All right, I want to dive into that in more detail, but I do want to talk about this week's newsletter. So this week is the 10 biggest time sucks in life. So I think it's perfectly aligned with what we're talking about here. Just that doom scrolling on Instagram and whatnot. So like ways to avoid the things that will sap time. Now, to be fair, if you have all this organized and you have the time to spend on those things, more power to you. However, I think a lot of us find ourselves having too much to do and being pulled in so many directions. So that'll be this week's newsletter. But to go back to what you said, I want to address the concern of, like, who am I to be able to delegate this, finding the massage therapist to somebody else? Like, what's your response to those people?
Yeah, again, that's psychological, right? It's like people. I was at a networking meeting and we were talking about delegating, and somebody said, "I prefer the word empowering." And it's like this is like 3 years ago, and I'm still hung up on the psychology behind. We can't even say the word delegating. We've got to like wordsmith it. Not everybody, right? But this guy and other people agree. Like we have to wordsmith it to almost manipulate someone to be like, I'm empowering you, and in a certain way, you're teaching them how to do things. You're giving someone a job. But look, an executive assistant for a boss, a CEO, they're learning a lot of damn skills that are transferable. I would love to hire more people in my business who have been executive assistants and who've learned things and see things, right? So like you're doing a great thing for somebody when you're letting them into your life and they're getting to see behind the scenes and run things for you. But like the fact that we feel bad because we're delegating, it's a transaction that you ask someone to do something for you and you agree to pay them in exchange for doing those things the same way we all make money. It's like, why would we feel bad about that? It's not like we are hiring free interns and then abusing them and making them sort of run our firm. I don't agree with that mentality, and I really try to push back hard on, like, there's no honor in doing everything yourself because, like, oh, I don't want to make someone else do things for me. Okay, name me one part of life where somebody has been successful and they did it all themselves. How would that just doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I'd go even farther than that. Like, so my child turned 7 last month. Prior to that, I don't think I had emotions. And I'm being a little hyperbolic, but not by much. Like there were a lot of clients that would be like, "Hey, I don't want to talk to Jordan, but I want him to handle my case so he can be a jerk to the state attorney and get what we want out of it." And so like me delegating answering the phone was great because I would answer the phone as a stubborn person who has 27 things to do, but instead I could find this like really super nice
Yep.
we hired somebody out of the UCF internship program who previously had worked at like a 4-star resort in Orlando, Four Seasons or whatever it was in Orlando. Like she loved the
Hmm.
customer service aspect. So now like I'm delegating this task to somebody else or empowering them to do what they're good at and what they enjoy doing that I hate doing. Like it's a
Yeah.
win-win and a win for the client to get, Andrea on the phone instead of Jordan.
They'll do it better than us. 90% of the positions we hire in place will do it better than us anyway.
I agree. I love it. So what's law firm owner listening to this has some staff is started down this process. Like what are the tips and tricks as somebody continues on this journey of getting the assistance to living a great life?
Um, every quarter, you mentioned doom scrolling, and like I find myself doing things now that I haven't done for a lot of years, kind of because I have the option now. Like I have the time. And so, at night, like I started to even, I hate to admit this out loud, but like I play a little bit of Fortnite with my sons. And like,
How dare you?
oh, I,
How
well,
dare you? Oh my God.
I've always felt like, some of my buddies I stopped playing video games. I mean, even like in call, I feel guilty. Like there's other things I should be doing or could be doing. So I always thought it was just like a total waste of time. But like, guess what? I put so many things on my place. I have the time. I'm not losing out on anything by doing it anymore. And before bed, unfortunately, Facebook's for old people, as my kids and other people tell me. I'll get on Facebook and I'll get caught on reels, and I mean, 45 minutes to an hour can go by without even blinking, right? Like it's insane how they figured out how to do that to us. But like I have enough time now where I really get to make decisions with what I do with my time. And I
Yeah.
I would go ahead.
Well, and if we interviewed your kids, I swear they would be like, Dad gets to play Fortnite with us, or we get to play Fortnite with Dad so much more than like, oh, Dad had to finalize this business transaction and build $1,500 on it because he didn't want to hire a
Yeah.
paralegal to do it during normal work hours and instead was doing it at 6 o'clock at night or, whatever else.
Yeah, their problem with me is not going to be, I don't see dad enough because he's working so hard. It's going to be my daddy's behavior during Fortnite is horrible because when he doesn't win, he gets mad and throws the remote. Like that's going to be their impression of me, unfortunately. So,
But then you
um,
have the time to meet with a therapist and work through that, like it's all
exactly.
about
Like,
time.
yeah. But if someone's going through the journey, every quarter, I used to do this thing every quarter where I was like, all right, what has crept back up on my plate that I need to get rid of? It's really the 80-20 rule. There's a lot of 80-20 rule books and variations, but like Richard Koch, it's like the first guy to sort of write about it. Um, and it's a short book, which is awesome. I mean, fits in with the 80
Well,
20
there's
rule.
like 27 of them now. There's like for business owners, for
I know there's
managers,
for
for
sure. 80-20 Marketing by Perry Marshall is probably my favorite business book ever. I just love that book. But sort of the original, it's like things, you'll get rid of things and then other things will creep up on your plate. And if you're not consistently saying no and reviewing every quarter of, okay, what else do I need to delegate? And does that just give back to the people, or is it say no? Or is it, okay, now it's time to hire yet another person? So like, I don't love being on social media, but it needs to happen. And you've got to, maintain a presence, and you've got to interact with people. And so I have a personal assistant who then has another assistant because we're trying to like elevate her. She doesn't want to be an executive assistant for 40 years, right? So she's my PR coordinator. So she does a lot of the sort of like outreach and the public stuff for me. And there's just always, if you're motivated, there's always more you can do, and you can figure out how to keep moving forward with the journey, and keep freeing up your time to do more of what you love. And there's also like just scope creep, life creep, right? It just, things creep back on, and you got to be careful that you don't find yourself bogged down somewhere else. Like, you don't want to free your time from one thing like email, which, by the way, your newsletter of the top 10 times, like email, email, social media, email, right? Like, that's how I would do it. Get out of something you're proud of, and then frees up your time, and then you find yourself just sucked in somewhere else. And people, your team can suck you in, and sometimes it's on purpose, and sometimes it's out of spite. You got to watch those things, and other times it's unintentional, but you just have to be very careful.
All right, you did it again where I want to highlight this like incredible nugget of wisdom in there. It it's very easy, like you said, for us to do more. Hey, make more calls, file more briefs, whatever. So you talked about quarterly sitting down and figuring out what to get off of your plate, which I think that's the next step that people eventually realize, how do I do less? But what you highlighted that was so smart was, and hiring another person, because like I don't want my 50-hour a week job that becomes 40 to turn my assistant to a 50-hour a week job, to not then let us hire another person
Right.
for them. So that was pro
Yeah.
tip right there.
Yeah. If you have a really great executive assistant, like, the story where we were talking, somebody got sick, and their assistant, who'd only been there 4 weeks, I threw Get Staffed Up, which just makes me feel amazing, kind of ran their office. Eventually, like, that person could be chief of staff, and they can
Right.
have a team of assistants, and then they can train and sort of be in charge of the assistants for the other attorneys at the firm, and they can have weekly meetings where they're reviewing and helping keep those people sharp. Obviously, that comes with financial promotions. There's a lot of ways that you can keep giving um more tasks, more jobs, and raising people up the ladder that are creative and fun.
I think the biggest thing though is really that like is balancing that focus of what more can we do with what less can we do, or who could do it better, or and then just like trickling down the task, to use the
Yeah,
economics
yeah.
term.
So when I say like more, I mean like that person can become more. They can be promoted up and then do less, right? Like, they can make more money, they can hire more important tasks, and then hire more entry level executive assistants, so that you are not overloaded. Like, you don't want to hire one executive assistant and make them work 80 hours a week. It's going to overwhelm
Right.
them. Now, if you hire your first executive assistant and you can barely afford them, then you could just have a really honest conversation. Like, just really freaking on. I believe in just total honesty with your team. Hey, here's where I am today. I am not in a great place financially. Like, you're gonna get paid, like, no problem. That's not the issue. But like, I have a plan over the next 6 weeks to hustle like crazy. So I need you locked in these next 6 weeks. And then we're gonna come up for air, and we're gonna see where we are, what's next. And 6 months from now, we're going to get another assistant, and we're going to take all these things off your plate. So if you crush it for me these next 6 months, here's where you're going to be. And then here's what's going to happen, because here is my plan. People want to work for somebody with a plan. At least like A players do, right? And so when you hire an attorney, be very honest about where they're going and where your plan for them, and make sure it aligns. When you hire a paralegal and you hire anyone at the firm, just be very, very honest that it's not just a clock punching, thoughtless. Like, there's a lot of intention behind why you're making this hire, and what the plan is, and how they fit in. And that's going to create better relationships. I know this is more of a lifestyle, conversation today, but too many people feel entitled to great team members. They feel like, how dare that person show up and not work for me their whole life? Like, that's a human being you're talking about. You have to earn really good people. You have to create a culture to make them want to work for you. You have to help make their life better so that your life can be better. So we don't want to skip over all those things. It's not about delegating the crap we don't want to do. It's about creating the type of environment where you are doing less, but everybody's happier for it.
Well, and I tell my team, I give them the old like, look, if you guys left, we'd replace you tomorrow, but not from the standpoint of like you being easily dismissible, from the standpoint of like, I don't want my team to be sacrificing all of themselves because they think that's what the job needs, and then they hate the job and resent it, and then they leave or don't do the right work anyway. Like
Yeah,
all of us are work is a component of what's going on, and I want you to have your full self show up to work, sometimes better, sometimes worse, but like we should want to work together because we are pulling towards the same things. We have shared core values. We believe similar things, not because you don't think you can find another job or not because I don't know, whatever silly reason people come up with to stay in a job that they hate.
right, right. And again, having a team that's locked in, that's happy, that's engaged, that helps you sleep at night. When you're worried because people have one foot in, one foot out, and are they going to go somewhere else? Are they looking for a job? Then you drive yourself crazy, thinking through those scenarios. And turnover is tough. Turnover is hard for a business, and it's going to happen. But the more people you hire, and I'm not advocating hiring 1,000 people, but you have more resources to then lighten the load, and other people can jump in when someone leaves, and they can help, and you can develop more training systems. You gotta not just hire the one good rock star assistant and call it a day. You got to keep pushing and taking more hats off, more hats, hiring people so that you can focus on what you're good at and really what you love. And that's what it comes back to at the end of the day.
Well, and I want to take what you just said and tie it to something you said earlier. You talked about like you don't want one personal assistant working 80 hours a week and getting burned out. So I would take the what do you love as the way to solve that problem. So if I had 80 hours of well, I guess I do have two personal assistants right now, but we didn't just say, "Hey, look, your guys are doing half and half." I sat down with the one who was there first and was like, "Hey, what stuff do you want to
Yep.
keep?
Yep.
What's the stuff that you love doing? What are you really good at?" And so rather than it being, two personal assistants for 80 hours, it might be one person who's really email and calendar and one person who's really admin tasks. Like you can split even the stuff that you're passing down to them can be split among multiple people in a way that lets them get better at what their core function is.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I mean, that's the right way to do it anyway.
And I think it makes your employees happier. Like if hey, listen, as my reward for you being here so long, in addition to financial benefits, like you get to pick what stuff you keep when we hire the next person. So now, you're going to get twice as many emails because we're twice as busy, or you're going to get twice as many social media posts made because we're trying to market twice as much. Like
Yep.
you pick, and have that discussion.
Yeah.
I think that becomes, yeah.
It does, and you're rewarding that person who's just like your most important person, frankly, outside your family, right? To your business and your life. It's like I'm gonna help you grow, and I'm gonna get you an assistant. That's the way I've done it. Like you can do multiple assistants, or you can make your first assistant kind of like in charge of the second one if they want, you know.
Well, I think that's the biggest, if they want and if they have the skill set.
Yeah.
It's interesting having read 150 plus business books for the last several years. The people are different, right? Like that's the end takeaway of all these books together. People are different, businesses want different things, we all have different core values. And so like the right person for me might be the exact wrong person for you because of slightly different core values, or it might be the same. And so like, or they might
Yeah.
be great at one job and the right person in the right seat. You might have the right person in the wrong seat. Like it's amazing to me how some of these small tweaks make the entire difference to a company, but in a way where you really have to think about your unique position, your unique company, your unique life, your
Yep.
unique needs.
Yeah. And I love that, Jordan, because we thinking and being thoughtful is underrated. Like what you're doing when you're planning is you're being thoughtful about why this person, why these tasks, how it fits in with the business, and what the plan is. And you're just trying to be considerate of that person, of yourself, of everybody around you. And I think thoughtful, there's in the book Giftology, they have a line, it's not the thought that counts, it's the thoughtful thought that counts. So if I
Hmm.
if I sent you a gift and you opened it and it was a New York Jets football helmet, that's a gift,
Is it on
but
fire?
very
Are we
thoughtful.
melting it down?
Exactly. It's not very thoughtful, because that's not who thankfully you root for. So I think just people get hung up with this, I can't delegate, and it's, is it be thoughtful about who you're hiring and what you're giving them. And if they accept that position and then you're paying them to do it, you're both in a better place. And so keep doing that until your business is in a place and your life's in a place where you get to wear Hawaiian shirts and hang out on a Wednesday if you want, if that's what makes you happy.
Right. Well, so I want to circle back to that, but that's a good lead in. Next week we're gonna have Seth Price on. I know you know Seth as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I think Seth does such a great job of is Seth is at every conference,
Uh-huh.
but he like has his kid at the conference. Or we were at Tech Show last week, and Seth was like, "All right, guys, I gotta go. I have a boat tour booked." Like just like turning this conference business travel into getting out with the kids and doing more things in all these cool cities across the whole country. Like exactly
Yeah.
if that's what you want. Here's somebody who wants to go to a bunch of conferences and do all this speaking while also using that as the chance to live a great life. So I'm super excited to pick Seth's brain on this.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. That's a good dude. He got a lot of knowledge too. And I agree with you. He is not only at every conference, he's got lunches and other ancillary things set up at every conference. I mean, he's using that time extremely well.
Well, but it goes back to your thing about, like showing up to the networking event. There are those people that you can tell like at the conference who are haggard beyond their mind and have had too much travel. And then you
They're
see the
just,
people that are
oh
like,
yeah,
I'm enjoying Chicago for the week, and I'm
right,
meeting these new vendors, and I'm checking with
right,
here, and I've brought a couple of new employees with me to introduce to other people. Just like
yeah,
it's all about, I think, the mindset that you bring into it when you can find the stuff you genuinely enjoy doing from the intentionality, like you talked about. I mean, it's
yeah.
fun.
Absolutely. There's people there that are stressed out of their mind to be there and they're worried about what everything else going on, and people who are just in the moment, right? And making the most of that time. And Seth and I, if we're both at a conference, there's a chance we're both exhibitors and attendees, so we've talked kind of a lot about that. And he's definitely someone to look to if you want to maximize your travel schedule and figure out how to squeeze in a lot in a short amount of time.
But I think like we're talking about this, you and I from the standpoint of having assistants. We're going to talk about it with Seth from the standpoint of like the travel for marketing. But that concept applies to everything. Like, the planning you talked about, the intentionality, and like the more that you can get yourself doing what you love to do, the better you show up for it, the easier you have learning what you need to learn to do good at it, the better you have spending the time to plan around it. Like it's the bake shop from eMyth, right? Like you have this person who loves making pies. They open up their own shop and then realize they can no longer make pies.
Yep.
That's the angry business owner instead of the one who finds like, I have a chief of staff, I have a person at the front counter, I have this, I have that, so I can go in the back and make pies for 40 hours a week. Like that's what you should be
That's
doing.
exactly. If you want to be a tactician, then keep practicing, right? But you got to put things around you to allow you to do that.
So what's the like wrap up final takeaways from this? I mean, we talked through opportunity costs, we talked through some of the quick things, we talked through some of the tips and tricks in the middle. Like what's the if somebody remembers nothing else that you said, what would be the best takeaway for them in terms of having the assistance we need for a great life?
I would say that the people that I really care about to help, that I want to help, are the people, not the people who've already started hiring and like, well, what's my next little move? It like I always go back to me at 30 when I had just started the law firm. It's like you will never have the money in the bank account. You will it's like there's never going to be just the right time to start hiring. Nobody's going to give you 60 grand and say, here's the money you need to pay someone for a year. If you like, you hire first and then the money comes. Not 10 people, not 20 people, just hire the one person, free up your time, and you will see the benefits, right? You will stop being your own assistant, you'll start being a lawyer for more of your time, and it'll just start changing your life day one.
I love it. And to get, I always like highlighting when our guests walk the walk. So I think I messaged Brett about this on Monday. Maybe it was Sunday about like, hey, I've got like one slot left. So I'm assuming you didn't fill out the paperwork, but had somebody else to get on Wednesday. Like that's not an option if you're working 80 hours a week. That is an option if you're working, 30 hours a week and then flexible for another 10 or 15 to
Yeah.
have, to jump on actual opportunities.
Yeah, I hit copy paste because you sent me a Facebook message. I then pasted it to my assistant. I said, "Hey, get me booked on my friend Jordan's podcast." And then later I was like, "Oh wait, I should let Jordan know that I at least received it." So that's one thing I did myself, right? I go back like, "Hey man, like I think at least I thought I should send you something. I hope I did." You
It's okay.
know,
My assistant read your Facebook message and then let me know in a
perfect,
meeting that we had you booked.
perfect.
So, it's the it's my people didn't contact your people. Your people, you told your people, my people told me. I mean, it's
And here we are.
awesome.
And they got paid for it. We're having fun. And hopefully other people get the message. And hopefully by having the freedom to start a podcast and talking about lifestyle, I hope like it just makes me feel so good that, like twice per year, sometimes once per year, I get a random message on LinkedIn. Hey, I read your book. I saw you on something. It really made a difference for me. Thank you. I don't know if they ever did business with me, but like it just feels great. And I'm sure that, with what you're doing and you're out there so often that you've helped change a lot of people's lives and put them on the right direction. And that's just awesome.
Thanks, man. Hope so. And that's over the next couple months, we're going to be launching the Luau, an online community to really help more people come together, horizontal ties to push these things. Because
Cool.
I think the more that we see other people putting their life first and building the businesses around it, the easier it is for everybody to make that jump.
Awesome. Love it. That's great.
All
That's
right.
cool.
So for the people listening who, the last hour or so, who are ready to make that first hire, who need more help, who want to pick your brain more, or, just hear more of your wisdom, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
So we set up a landing page just for your audience at our website. So if you go to getstaffedup.com/Jordan O, then you'll have all the information you need to see what we do. And if you want to move forward, great.
Awesome, man. Thank you. And I think that they get a discount
Yeah.
onboarding or something.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can truly, this is being recorded. You can quote me on it. I have multiple clients that use Get Staffed Up who have great stories to share about it. Specifically, the one who was sick and had a
Yeah.
new hire, cover their firm for a long period of time. It's awesome. And I think the more that we prioritize things like this, the less attorneys get depressed and burnt out and suicidal and everything else that we go through in an industry. So
Yeah.
it might seem dismissive that we're sitting here on a Wednesday in Hawaiian shirts, but it's the benefit of us being able to appreciate our lives instead of
Yeah.
having to grind.
Couldn't agree more, man. Great work you're doing. Keep it up.
You too, man. All right. So thank you, Brett, and thank you to everybody else who watched and listened. We'll see you back here next week for Seth's episode. In the meantime, find your Hawaiian shirt, take some time for yourself, delegate that email, let's get it going.
Let's do it. Thanks, buddy.